Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about a fascinating topic in the world of video games, independent games, or are they now indie games?
That's right. When we know the big titles and franchises, there's an entire universe of creativity and passion emerging from small studios and individual developers. We're talking about those unique projects that often challenge us and surprise with fresh ideas. It's a
Next, we'll talk about their origins, their different genres, their production, and other things about them. Indie success stories and thought roads. Let's talk about some famous indie games that hit it big, and also understand that it's not always easy. Think about Celeste, for example. This game looks simple, but it has amazing platforming challenge and really touching story about overcoming fears. It sold millions of copies and won many awards, showing that a small team can make something truly special that connects with players all over the world. Then there's Hollow Knight, a beautiful action-adventure game with a deep world and thought boss fights. It took a lot of time and effort from its small development team, but it also became a huge success because of its incredible art, challenging gameplay and mysterious story. People loved exploring its world and discovering all its secrets. And of course, we can't forget Undertale. This game changed how many people think about RPGs because of its unique combat system where you can choose to fight or befriend enemies. It was made mostly by one person and became a cultural phenomenon, proving that sometimes a simple idea with a lot of heart can make a massive impact. These games show us that passion, creativity, and unique ideas can lead to incredible success, even without a big company behind them. However, it's really important to remember that of every Celeste or Hollow Knight, there are many indie games that don't find a big audience. The market is very crowded and it's hard for new games to get noticed. Developers pour their hearts and savings into these projects, but often they don't sell enough copies to even cover their cost. This is the reality for many indie creators. It's a challenging path full of passion but also a lot of risk.
diversity in indie games, genres, and art styles. One of the most exciting things about indie games is their amazing variety, because developers don't have big companies telling them what to do. They are free to try almost anything. This means we see a huge range of genres that are fresh and new, or they mix all genres in surprising ways. For example, you might find a puzzle game mixed with a platformer or a storytelling game with elements of a rhythm game. They don't have to follow rules, they make their own. Think about Untitled Goose Game. Its visual style and music are absolutely key. The game doesn't try to be super realistic. Instead, it uses a very distinct, almost cartoon-like art style. Everything looks a bit rounded and soft, with clear, bright colors. The characters have simple but expressive designs, and the village itself feels like a lovely, peaceful English countryside, even when you're being a menace. And then there's the music. Untitled Goose Game has a truly unique and brilliant soundtrack. Instead of a continuous background score, the music is dynamic and interactive. It mostly uses classic piano pieces by Claude Debussy. But there's the clever part. The music changes and reacts to what you're doing in the game. When you're just walking around quietly, the music might be calm and peaceful, but as soon you starts to cause trouble, like honking at someone, stealing an item, or chasing a person, the music suddenly becomes more intense, faster, and more chaotic. Or consider Clone Drone in the Danger Zone. This game is a robot fighting game, but with a unique visual style where everything is made of voxels, small 3D blocks. When you hit an enemy, their parts break off and in a very satisfying way. This shows how indie games can take a known genre and give it a completely new feel with their art and gameplay. Beyond just the type of game, indie titles truly shine in their visual art styles and music. You can find games with beautiful hand-drawn art, like a living cartoon. Others use retro pixel art, reminding us of old arcade games, but with modern twists. Some are very minimalist, using simple shapes and colors to tell a powerful story, while others create incredibly detailed and imaginative worlds. And the music. Indie game soundtracks are often incredibly memorable and diverse, from chiptunes that sound like old computers to orchestral scores to experimental electronic music. These elements are not just background, they are a big part of the game's identity and emotional impact. This freedom in both genre and artistic expressions is why indie games are so special. They are a playground for creativity, constantly pushing the boundaries of what video games can be. They prove that you don't need a massive budget to make a game that looks amazing, sounds great, and feels completely new and exciting.
The impact of indie games on the AAA industry. Indie games, despite their small scale, have a surprisingly big impact on the huge AAA game industry. Think of indie developers as the experimenters, the ones who aren't afraid to try new things because they don't have millions of dollars on the line. This means they often come up with innovative game mechanics, unique storytelling methods, or fresh art styles that big companies might consider too risky. For example, a successful indie game might introduce a new way to explore a world or a different kind of combat system. What happens then? Sometimes these new ideas become so popular that the larger AAA studios start to take notice. They might get inspired via indie games, success and try to incorporate similar ideas into their own massive projects. It's like indie games are testing ground for innovation, and the successful experiments then get picked up with the mainstream. This means that even if you mostly play big budget games, you are likely benefiting from the gravity born in the indie scene, often without realizing it. Furthermore, the indie world is a crucial place for a new talent to emerge. Many game developers start their careers in indie teams, learning all aspects of game creation. If an indie game becomes a big hit, the talented individuals behind it might get hired by the larger AAA studios, bringing their fresh perspective perspectives and skills with them. This constant flow of ideas and talent from the independent scene helps to keep the entire gaming industry dynamic and prevents it from becoming stagnant. So while big games capture headlines, it's the smaller risk taking in the titles that often quickly push the boundaries and drive the evolution of what video game can be.
So what do they do? Prison is passion indie developers and usually dream big app store. Those will to create something original and unique. They often clear artistic vision and want to tell a specific story and explore a name gameplay. Either that means no be possible and in big commercial studios this personal connected the game is what makes money in these tales feel so special. Heartfelt is a challenging game but full of rich long horse and uncertain, but the reward of saints players home and home. Something you spoiled you had is what comes the indie spirit elevate and thriving. One of the bigger for indie developers. These funding big companies have large budgets from publisher but indie often ready on trade home. 7 or 10 free to get money storm crowdfunding. Platforms like Kickstarter where players can support games before they are finished. Sometimes they work with indie publishers who help with money and marketing but hidden and this support is not easy. This this financial pressure can be very stressful as game meet no set enough copies to even cover costs of its development despite years of hard work. Development process. Challenger and passion the process of making an indie game is incredibly unlike of them right be immense passion but full of big challenger unlike whole game studios with hundreds of employees. Indie games are usually very small. Sometimes it's good one person or an output of film working together this makes. Thus, a single developer might be responsible for everything the 60 game. Darwin at the art winning the code composing the music and even handling the marketing is a massive amount of work, and it requires a huge range of skill. This multitasking often leads to incredibly long or what many crunch time, where developers work non-stop to finish three green projects.
The origins and evolution of indie games. The story of indie games is really interesting one. So we know game started from small mechanics and great into industry. In the very early days of video games, almost all games were indie because they were made with small group, sometimes even just one person in university or small home offices. Think about game leaks password from the 16th creator video unit of a student on big computer. That was truly independent project later. In the 90s and 80s, with the rise of personal computer, people could make games at home and share them as software like Commander Crew of Doom. It is rarely from the one of 10 creators be small team. Sometimes just one or two people were later formed with companies. So the idea of independent game creator has always been here. Big change and were many purple this of a start of the modern insane happening in the 2000 version. This it was very hard for small developers to sell their games because they need a big publisher of a physical store. But the next platform started to appear like Xbox Live Arcade in to suffer from and were the growth of Steam on PC. This digital store made it much easier for small developers to put their games directly in front of players all over the world without needing a big company to help. World of game changer. So line only one with go idea and skill could try to make a game and set it. We saw incredible games like Cave in 2004, a passion project made by one person over 5 years, which became incredibly popular. Ever two is one free and at first games like Bride in 2008, which showed that indie games could be used as tone true and artistic as big bowling titles, earning critical acclaim and proving that players wanted something different. This period really opened the doors to using game engines like Unity and Real Engine also became more accessible, lowering the technical barriers. Steam together created the vibrant indie games world is now today a place where creativity often comes first.
The future of indie games. The future of indie games is looking very bright, especially with new technologies making development more accessible. Artificial intelligence, for instance, is starting to help developers with tasks like crafting art or writing basic code, letting small things to more with less. This means we might see even more visually starting or compete indie games in the coming years. New platforms and services are so a big part these future call games means more people can you without needing powerful hardware. Subscription services like Game Pass give indie titles a massive audience. They might not advertise range helping developers get their games played and early money. However, it's not done its challenge. The biggest hurdle for indie games remains visibility. With so many new games released daily, it's incredibly hard for a game to stand out. Developers need to be clear with their marketing and truly connect with players. Despite this, the indie game community is thriving with game jams and only groups providing crucial support, new ideas, and opportunities for collaboration. Ultimately, the future of indie games will continue to be driven by their core treasures, creativity, and innovation. Unlike bigger companies that often play it safe, indie developers are free to take risks, experiment with ideas, and explore new types of gameplay or storytelling. This ensures that indie games will always be a vital and exciting part of the gaming world, constantly pushing boundaries and surprise with French heartfelt experiences.